This is Obsessive Audio. How are you, my friend?
Hey, how's it
Oh,
going?
it's all good. Oh, it's going very well. Now, I'm gonna float this your way. Are you also in Canada by any chance?
I am, yep, in the
Do you
great city of Toronto.
and do you also have a radio show? You can choose not to answer if you prefer not to.
No, I've got video channel, the Obsessive Audio video channel. Got another one called the Mixercist. That's usually focused on audio and production and that sort of thing.
Were
But
you and I think you and I were on before this. I think you and I were on True North Eager Beaver together, weren't we?
we were. That's how we met.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, Paul and Douglas. Yeah, I listen to that show pretty much every day. Not as early as they do it live. It's usually later on in the day, but
Yes, I
it was
always me too, and I
awesome.
always feel like a child because I just can't. They get up at they are ready to go with a radio show by 7 a.m. I'm just like, my God, at
I
at
think they
best
get up at 5 or something.
they might. Yes, yeah. Best case
Yeah.
scenario, by the time they're halfway through the show, I'm just leaving the arms of Tyra Banks in my mind and returning to this awful world.
And every day too, Monday to Friday, and of course the pubcasts once a month when they can do
Yes.
it, which is usually most months, live from the Lieutenant's Pump in Ottawa.
Yes. Well, I'm gonna look. I got thrown because you've never when you've called in, you've never plugged your stream before. I'm gonna plug it. Go watch Obsessive Audio. He's fun. I
Yeah, I'm
we
gonna
we
have
had
some new stuff coming up on Monday, Tuesday too, as well.
awesome. All right, my friend. I will be there or I will be square. What were
Excellent.
your what you have to talk about? I can
Well,
talk.
first up, I had a real quick correction to issue because I was on the chat
Shoot.
a couple days ago. One of the last things I was talking about the Israel conflict, and I'd noted that the government of Israel had issued some offshore contracts right after the October 7th attack.
Hmm.
And I was I think I had read a misleading article, which was kind of implying that it was right off of Gazan waters. But I looked
Hmm.
into it, and I looked into the companies. It was hard to find where they actually are. I had to plug in geo coordinates and stuff, but they're not right off the coast there. I think they're somewhat north of that, but they are expanding that area, and they did issue this stuff right after the war began.
How you can tell that you are not dealing with a MAGA stream person caring enough about whether or not they were accurate from days back to issue a correction. Thank you.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
appreciate
No, I
you.
just had to clarify because you see that stuff, you go, oh. I mean, of course, all conflicts are primarily about resources and territory and money and industry, and you
Yeah.
get you get almost paranoid about it. It's like, okay, who's making money off this? What do they want? And who's behind it all? We've got up here in Ontario, we've got a Premier Doug Ford, and this I have looked into. Quite thoroughly, and a number of others have. He's issuing contracts, construction contracts, out to this company called Drabag, Drabag, 27.8% owned by Oleg Deripaska. Russian oligarch. You
Really?
know who he is in the States. You know who he is. He's the
Yes.
guy who was behind all the election shit.
Yeah.
There was just an FBI higher up in the FBI who's just got arrested. He was doing time for dealing with this guy. He's on the Canadian sanctions list, and I'm assuming he's also on the American one.
Oh, absolutely. I've been
So
hearing about Deripaska for about how long is it? About 5 years now, since halfway through Trump's presidency, before we even knew how bad it would get. It continually shocks me how much overlap there is. We don't just have the same things happening in various countries around the world. We have the same people doing them.
it's the same people. I see the anti-corporatist there. He says the king of aluminum. Absolutely right. There's the aluminum company. The name eludes me at the moment, but he when the wall came down and the Soviet Union disbanded, they sold all of the public goods for tenths of pennies on the dollar, And there was a big battle to see who would end up with those resources, the mines, the plants, et cetera, et cetera. And these were literal gang wars with people offing each other to get to the supply. And Deripaska is one of them. Not a nice dude.
It's fascinating to me that he's tied up with the Greenbelt scandal. That's
Yeah, yeah. I think this one was, it's Doug Ford's new "Get It Done" bill, which is mostly deregulation, so that he can push through, like you said, a highway. I think that they also hired this dry bag company for a tunnel in Niagara Falls. There's like 4 or 5 projects I've seen.
so forgive me. You're dealing with somebody who is both already overwhelmed and also in a country that tries intentionally to keep me ignorant. Are you telling me that this is not related to the Khalid Rashid et al. Greenbelt scandal? This is a separate scandal that
I
Deripaska.
don't know. I think no, because I think this highway is supposed to go through some green belt. But no, again, don't quote
Okay.
me on that, or I'll have to come back in a couple of days and say no. It actually doesn't.
Well, that's just incentive to quote you on it. But
Yeah,
all right, fair enough.
but I feel like we're being attacked by Russia with domestic accomplices. Is basically
Yes.
it, and the fact that there aren't bombs going off, or there are some cyber attacks, but the fact that we're not seeing that kind of physical warfare doesn't mean that we're not under attack. And I think that's what people have to realize, is that we're getting it. We're getting it with the disinformation. It's very advanced. Russia, as you know, they're experts at disinformation. There's a job description that's called political technologist. We don't have that title over here, and you know what they do.
Abrogate. Yeah.
So I mean, because look at it. It's the election stuff. It's the pandemic stuff. It's divide and conquer, man.
Oh, all right. So first of all, I want to reference the way I misheard that. To vibe and conquer.
Oh
That's
yeah,
what I feel. That's what I feel we should be doing. Basically,
divide and conquer.
convincing people that we are chill and therefore come hang out with us. Also, let's talk about defeating the man. Um, Man, I, I, you know how deer can't see orange? Are you familiar with that?
No, what is that?
Basically, the reason hunters wear bright orange is because they're hunting deer, and deer can't see that. Actually, a lot of animals can't see
Wow,
orange.
no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, to them it's just a purely gray color, but for a hunter it's a safety feature because all right. So the equivalent of orange to deer for humans is something being boring. If something is boring, we just cannot wrap our minds around it, or are like our brains choose not to tell us that it's a significant thing that's happening if it's happening in a boring way. Because of that, I feel like we've just sort of slid past the fact that we are currently engaged in a Cold War with Russian billionaires, and our main adversary are literally called trolls, and our other adversary are bots. They're robots.
Yeah,
But we have Russian trolls. They're literally paid to go cause in America and Canada and England and basically I'm just naming English speaking countries. Basically any place that opposes Russia. They're paid to go raise hell. And they do so in a very boring manner. They leave shitty little comments. They make bots that boost the algorithm of the worst people. And because it's such a boring approach to a very destructive thing, I feel like they've gotten away with it because we're not actively fighting it. What I would what I would beg everybody to do: report bots when you see them. It's that simple. If you
definitely.
see an account that is 2 weeks old and it's saying things that are incredibly inflammatory, that is a Ruski.
Yeah, they
All
joined,
you have to do.
less than a few months ago, and they've got 2 followers, and the
Yes.
name is American Patriots Superman
Yeah.
50679 two. Yeah,
Yep.
We're desensitized to it. I mean, I'm still on Twitter, but I'm trying to get off of it. I'm trying to find a good replacement. I don't know if there is really one yet.
From what I've seen, Blue Sky at least looks quite similar. It feels somewhat similar to me. It's no longer invite only, to my knowledge. But if it is, then I have a bunch of invites saved up.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I did the Mastodon, and that runs on something called it's a protocol, and it's called ActivityPub. And I think
Hmm.
Threads was going to open that up so that there would be the ability to cross communicate between Threads and Mastodon. I'm not sure if Blue Sky's in on that one too. That because that would be that's the idea of decentralized social media.
That is what I want to see. And on a somewhat related note, um, if you ever, as a man in your line of work, ever come across freeware such as OBS that you think doesn't get enough love, let me know about it, and I will sing its praises because I think that's the
Oh,
answer to.
absolutely. OBS is so good, so good.
It is. It is.
And
Eh,
there's nothing you can't do because of it's open source and everybody writes the plugins are called, and you
Yeah.
install I need to do this, find the plugin that does it. Maybe there'll be 2 or 3 to choose from. Find the one that works for you, and it's
Absolutely.
free.
Yes. And it's the reason we don't all have like competing social media streaming services that are mining our data in just in order to organize our clips or what have you. It's the reason we don't have to pay $200 for a license to Adobe to do that. It's just because somebody good and early got in there and said, "Here's a free version," and the free version works. Uh, Obsessive audio. I'm gonna toss it to you. Anything you want to talk about, toss out there. We'll talk about it to wrap the show.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I covered it, and we kind of started veering into the Russian disinformation. Anti-corporatists is pointing out it's not just them; it's other countries around doing it. For instance, and of course, Russia is not just doing it to the U.S. They're doing it close to Ukraine, Moldova, Transnistria, Africa. Russia's all over Africa. If you follow Wagner, there's an excellent documentary about the Wagner Group and what they've been doing in Africa over the last bunch of
Yeah.
years.
Who's even in control of Wagner anymore? Prigozhin got Navalny'd
Yeah, I
early on.
wondered if it got dissolved or just sort of absorbed into the normal.
Ministry of Defense.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I would assume so. That or there is some newly crowned oligarch who's got a bunch of
hmm
Nazis fighting for him now.
Well, I mean,
Wow, we're in
there
a
are a
weird
bunch
place.
of these militia, mercenary groups. Wagner wasn't the only one. It's
True.
kind of like these oligarchs have their private armies.
It's kind of exactly like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
They very much do.
There was a hope, when the Ukraine war started. After about a year or so, there was a hope around the time where Prigozhin was acting up that it would spark some kind of instability there, that these oligarchs would start fighting each other to see
I was
who's next
rooting
in
for it.
line.
I was
Yeah,
I was cheering it on. I I
but
I it's not dead yet, that hope, for me anyway. I just think Putin has bought himself more and more time, but eventually, I'd never see a dictatorship end gently, you know?
no, no. Um, there is a guy, and this is take this name down, Gene Sharp, GeneSharp. He passed away a few years ago. But he had a foundation, and it was all about how to overthrow a dictator and to do it primarily non-violently, and how
Mm,
that actually is more successful more often than a violent revolution. And he covered like the solidarity movement in Poland, a bunch of different countries. It was a long study. He devoted a lot of his life to it. Gene Sharp, there's a video on YouTube. It's called "How to Start a Revolution,"
ooh, hold on, I'm
and
typing it. How
that how to start a revolution.
beautiful. Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Anyway, thought I'd throw that one out there. But and as far as Russ is concerned, I thought that with the death of Alexei Navalny, that might be, this might be the moment. But I think what we saw in Russia was very few people coming out, just to pay the respects, to lay some flowers, and getting arrested.
Yeah, has
Just for doing that.
Navalny, has he already has Alexei Navalny been buried? Alexei Navalny's body 8 hours ago was handed over to his mother.
Oh, I didn't know
That
that.
Yeah, so that would mean that we presumably have a burial coming up. Let's say this, and let's leave this on a cliffhanger for both our audiences. Let's keep our eyes peeled and see if Alexei Navalny's funeral turns into Vladimir Putin's wake.
Oh, Petey. That's a haiku there. That was poetic.
I hope it makes sense. I'll look back and see if it does. I hope it's the beginning of the end for his political career. Sorry.
I hope so. I hope that the West, and when I say that, I'm ground zero would be the MAGA segment of the Republican Party. They're holding up aid, and it's not a good thing. It's not a good look. The allies are concerned. Can we really trust the U.S.? What's going to happen to NATO? What if Trump gets in?
Yeah, you can't, and you can't even do it if Joe Biden gets reelected, or you can't even do it if Kamala Harris gets elected and for 2 terms, because we've demonstrated that one of our parties is absolutely irresponsible, and no promise made by the Democrats can be trusted through a Republican administration. So my caution to the world, and even though it breaks my heart to say this to, frankly, our closest ally and the only country that's ever bloodied our nose properly in a war, don't trust us until we have sanity well restored.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, and the Republicans of all people, the Republicans, they were the hawks. If you're old enough to remember, they were the hard stance against Russia party. They were the national security party, and they were the spreading and defending democracy party.
Turns out they were always just the war party.
Yeah, pretty much. So hopefully there's Ukraine's in a little bit of trouble now in terms of running out of ammunition. They had pieced together kind of a hodgepodge of Russian munitions, different brands, different sizes. And the problem with that is when you've got all this different equipment and you run out or something breaks, there's less compatibility. You can't use this shell in this piece. And NATO, of course, has standardized all this stuff. So it's the 155 millimeter shell is the big one.
At least they've got a lot of dropped Russian guns to use for now, and thankfully Sweden has jumped in with a sizable contribution. But it just there's no excuse to be made. The U.S. has let down an ally, and
the countries that know him the best, the countries that understand what's going on the best, are the ones with the borders: Poland, Lithuania, Latvia. Who else? Estonia. They know NATO. Finland. Yeah, and they're the next front line. We deal with this now, right? We deal with this now, or we deal with it later, at much greater cost, human cost, economic cost, all of it, and time. It'll take us longer to get out of it. Because he ain't gonna stop.
Hours in front of this microphone trying to communicate what you just accomplished in a sentence. That's it exactly. We deal with it now or later at greater cost. That's it exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Well done. I think that's going to close the show.
That's great. Well, I'll just leave one more thought because I don't want to keep you too long, but I watched Zelensky at the Munich Security Conference last week. I was up really late, and it started. I thought, I got to watch it. And there were 2 things he said that stuck with me, and I can't remember the first one. The second one is that most people in the West, most Western countries, are not psychologically prepared to deal with what's going on right now.
Yeah.
And something to think about.
It is. I thank you for it. Obsessive Audio, thank you for joining me.
Cheers. Great to see you again.
I'll see you around the block, my friend.
Right on.